You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Bulldog Hour's 4th season. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We're approaching the season rapidly now, and I'm excited. And we've got a lot of good stuff to kind of talk about tonight and get out there. So I think if you're not ready yet, and you probably are if you're watching the show. Yeah. But if you're not, if you're on the fence, maybe tonight's show will be the one that gets you ready for that opening night.
Yeah, hopefully you listen to, if not the first 2 episodes, which are kind of done at a time where people aren't really thinking about high school football. You know, it was the end of April, end of June. Well, hopefully you listened to episode 3 last week because we had a great set of interviews with 8 senior players talking about this upcoming 2018 season. And here we are back tonight to talk about that exact thing with assistant coaches John Lorchak, Ernie Wolber, and Paul Covell. So you'll have 2 interviews this evening. First up is just going to be John Lorchak, the new offensive line coach, and then we'll have the 2 defensive coaches sit together to answer a whole bunch of questions about the 2018 season, which at this point, as of the release of this show, the full contact, all pads, 3 practices a day, plus films and all that jazz, that starts tomorrow, August 13th.
Yeah.
So they're ready to go now. They finished Heat Week. Yeah, they finished Heat Week. They're all done with that. They're acclimated to the summer temperatures like they haven't been working 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, plus 707 plus team. Like they haven't been doing
But now
stuff
they're ready.
Now they're ready to go. Now they can
You're
handle...
not ready till the PIAA says you're ready.
Well, let's not talk about the PIAA. Let's let the coaches talk about the PIAA because, of course, I asked them about the hot topic surrounding Pennsylvania high school sports and also a variety of other things about the 2018 season and all that. So it was a great set of interviews. We're going to play those for you tonight. But like usual, we have a couple things we want to cover. And first up, the most important aspect for us in this housekeeping part is our sponsors. We want to thank my dad at May's Sandwich Shop, Andy Herr, Matt Cruz, and our 2 anonymous sponsors. Thank you so much for your kind donations to help us maintain things here and get better technologically, just be able to reach a larger audience and fill a role as kind of the outreach program for the football team.
Yeah, it's it's great having that support from the donors that we have listed there for you. So if you see those guys, or if you're hungry, you can go kind of express your thanks to them. And we thank the anonymous donors as well. They're a big part of just helping us, and let's be honest, a lot you helping to be able to kind of continue to do the things and to add the things that we know and we hear from people that maybe you're looking for. So those opportunities are there for you, but I know that's what you're about to get to. So I kind of helped with that transition.
Yeah,
in a fumbling way.
Well, we do have sponsorships and advertising opportunities. I believe I have those posted on bulldoghour.com. So thank you for the in-kind donations as well. Continue to spread the word, and like Justin says, like and share.
Like and share, help spread it.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yep.
All the social networks, get our name out there. And the website is really a big place to go because that helps us see the type of traffic we're getting, where it's coming from, and how we can better get our content out there and help support the program in turn. So I want to step back and talk about the anonymous donors again. I'm not going to out them because that's the whole point of the word anonymous. But I do want to point out that I don't believe either of them directly played on the team. These are friends, family, supporters of the program. This is not former players reaching back to us.
Yeah, so we greatly appreciate that, and don't think oh, well, I don't have a lot to help them out. Any little bit helps. So if you're interested, be in contact with us, and we will make sure we find a way that you can help the show.
Well, and if you want to get more exposure, via us talking about it, or your logo, or whatever you want us to talk about or put out there, there's many ways to do that, and that's where the sponsorship and advertising comes in.
Absolutely.
Because we control the game feed, the live feed you see on Facebook. That's done by us, and that's a way to reach out to a pretty large audience. We broadcasted the playoff games thanks to sponsors last year. Now all that money went to cover the District 3 rights fee, but the Wilson Football Parents Organization and Weichel Realty Group covered the bill for that, and it's not a small amount. It was pretty big money for that, and they stepped up and allowed us to stream that, and in turn they got the advertisement on the feed, and that reached thousands of viewers.
Yeah.
So, if it's something you're interested in, reach out to me. Joe@bulldoghour.com is my show email, or you can also email wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com.
Yeah, so big or small, we're always looking for the help. So thank you.
And other ways to help the program directly, and not this program, the actual football program, is the game film fundraiser ongoing, as well as the Game Used Jersey fundraiser. And all that money is going back to help support the program. Was already able to give Coach Dom and the program the money made from earlier jersey sales. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely hit me up. Let me know what you want. And again, this is open to everyone. So this can be fans, kids, community, businesses, or former players and coaches. Anyone can buy any jersey at this point. So let me know what you're interested in, and we will make that happen. And the Gridiron Classic, we're not going to go over the schedule again because we talked about the first 3 weeks, and we will do so again as we get to the game previews. But the Gridiron Classic is October 5th at First Energy Stadium, home of the Reading Fightins, and it will be Wilson versus Hempfield, and it is Wilson's first game there in nearly 40 years, and more than 35 years since they've hosted any teams out at what used to be Municipal Memorial Stadium. It's going to be a huge event, a lot of fun, and if you need your tickets, make sure you stop by May's Sandwich Shop and get them. We are selling them. Currently, we just have the general admission. We're trying to get more reserved seating, but all tickets, general admission, are $5 a piece. You can also get them on the Reading Phillies website, fightins.com, but there's a ticket surcharge for doing that, so you can do that. If you'd like reserved tickets, since we don't have them, you can go to, I believe, the Reading Phillies box office and get them there for $8. But we do encourage you to get your tickets early, because the day of the game, you can get seats, but they're $2 or $3 more. So save yourself some money, buy those tickets early. And again, like we mentioned last week, if you're a Gursky reserve seat person, or you have a year-round athletic pass, or you got reserved seats or an annual pass for the football game, none of those are accepted. You must have a special event ticket through the Reading Phillies, through the Fightins, to get into the Gridiron Classic.
Yeah, so make sure you stop by, like you said, you can stop by the shop and get them. There are multiple outlets where you can get them. The easiest way is to probably stop by the shop and buy your tickets there. And like you said, you don't want to wait. And honestly, I think, this isn't necessarily a season preview one, but as the game gets closer, I think, Hempfield fans are going to be more interested as well. If they're coming all the way to Wilson, going the extra little bit to the Reading Phillies or the Fighting Stadium isn't that big of a deal. So I think that actually might be a bit of a draw for the Lancaster crowd as well. So you don't want to wait to the last minute here. So, do yourself a favor and go out and get your tickets now.
A month before the Gridiron Classic game, Wilson versus Hempfield, occurs in early October. In early September, the third week of the season, the second home game will be September 7th against Springford. That is the night that the Wilson Football Tradition Club is honoring the former title teams that played in the fall of 1978, fall of 1993, and fall of 2008. We've got a good amount of RSVPs from the 2008 team, so it'll be fun to see those guys come back. And we'd like to get more from 1993 and 1978. So if you or someone you knew was a part of those teams, again, it can be any level. It doesn't have to just be seniors from those teams. Freshmen, sophomores, juniors, coaches, trainers, you name it. If you were a part of those teams that fall, please reach out to wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com or HallieVaughn@AOL.com by August 24th, which is just about a week away, 2 weeks away, the deadline to RSVP for that event. It's always a fun time. The returning players will be honored on the field at halftime, and it's great to remember teams from the past.
Yeah, I'm still struggling. We talk about this pretty much weekly. I am still struggling with the fact that 2008 is 10 years ago.
I know.
How did that happen?
How did we get so old? It's just, it's mind-boggling.
People.
Because 2008 is so significant because of, let's face it, the Phillies winning the World Series as huge Philadelphia sports fans. That was a big thing. But leading up to that, or really after that, it was Wilson football. And since I wasn't around for that year, I lived Wilson football through you.
Yeah.
And so I heard everything about how great that 2008 team was directly from you, going to all those games, and unfortunately having to hear the heartbreaking ending, which we're not going to talk anymore about.
Nope, no more.
Because you want to keep your job.
That's right.
So, yeah. And we want to be able to keep doing the show.
Yeah, we have those conversations off camera.
If you want to talk to us off the record where nothing can be recorded or submitted for the termination of this show, we'll be more than happy to do that.
Maybe if donor levels reach a certain level,
maybe we could have like an Bulldog Hour rated R, which is only for members, only for donors that give us so much per month or per year. Set up a little patron program.
Wouldn't take as many takes.
You can hear our uncensored thoughts on everything.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about this after.
And that would be something you'd be privy to. Yeah. So, all right, well, let's not delay anymore and let's get to the point of this show, episode 4 of the 4th season. We're focusing here on the assistant coach interviews. Again, John Lorchak, Ernie Wolber, and Paul Covell sat down, but we're going to hear from the new guy. Well, the new guy in quotations, because he had a spell with Wilson before. I believe it was 05 or 06 or 06, 07, right around there in the mid-2000s. He was an assistant offensive line coach with Jeff Brubaker, who has since retired. John Lorchak now is taking over for him. I got to sit down and talk with him for about 20 minutes or so, answering questions about his coaching career, the current team, and a variety of other topics. So let's hear from Coach Lorchak. Okay, so I'm starting off the coach interviews this year with the newcomer to the coaching staff, John Lorchak, going to be coaching the offensive line. You're taking over for Jeff Brubaker, who's been here a number of years. And I know this isn't your first go-round with the Wilson team, but how did you end up being contacted or filling in the role with Jeff Brubaker moving on?
I was here in 2006 and 2007 as the assistant to Jeff. And in 2008, I moved on to Reading, and then I spent some time at Exeter. And last year, I was on the Spring Ford staff. And I always kept close relations with Coach Doms, Coach Palm, all the other coaching staff. And when Jeff decided to retire this year, Coach Doms contacted me. So it wasn't like I didn't know the staff. In fact, the staff, with the addition of a few other individuals, is still the same staff that I was here with in 2006, 2007.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that many years since you were here. It feels like just yesterday.
I know.
But we're happy to have you back, and nice of you to fill in for Coach Brubaker. Like you said, retiring and going to get to watch his son play high school football.
Yep.
So are you introducing any new changes with the offense or along the offensive line, or is it going to be kind of the status quo?
For the most part, it's going to be what was the technique, the scheme as in the past. I've built off of what Coach Brubaker had in place here and continue with what he had when he put it in place back in 2006 and 2007.
Now, you mentioned being at a variety of schools and institutions in the area. Is it a lot different being at Wilson, or is it kind of how most teams operate nowadays?
The difference here is the level of intensity. When you go to other places, depending on the size of the school, depending on the tradition, you just have a few things that are going to be different. That is going to be there with the background of the district playoffs and the playoff wins and the league titles, that's going to be at times unmatched in other places. So with that in place here, you have a difference in that standpoint.
And I know for some of the programs, the biggest difference is how the off season is treated, because there's not really much of an off season, especially over the summer. At Wilson, it's 3 days a week, a few hours a day of voluntary practice, which you get a pretty huge turnout for. How did those summer sessions go? How have things been going in the morning?
The summer sessions have been great. The strength has increased over the summer. You've had an increase in the conditioning, and also it's just the number of reps that the individuals have gotten learning the offensive scheme, going through the different plays. And that's crucial going into this season, because with the now 0-week game, you don't have the 2 scrimmages that you have had in the past. So you're almost going to have everything in place before the summer preseason camp starts, and get yourself in game mode that first week of summer camp, because within a week and a half, you're going to have a game.
Yeah, it is. The schedule is something that definitely is a big topic for the fans, the community, and I've been talking to the kids, and I'm going to ask the coaches about it. I guess the nicest thing about the schedule this year is, while it's different to have a lack of a second scrimmage, at least everyone's on the same playing field. Whereas last year we saw some teams playing week 0 and others still having a scrimmage. And the coaches I've talked to in the past have said that you can't compare scrimmage to a game. A second scrimmage is nice, but when you're going against a team that's already played a game, just the intensity is so different.
No question about it. I've been in the situation where I was coaching at a program that had a game 0 week and didn't have a game 0 week. And just the physical exhaustion that it takes in a game is unmatched in practices. And going that whole 4 quarters, where many scrimmages you might have 2 quarters or 3 quarters of a running clock, it's just not the same intensity. And it wasn't equal. Now it's going to be equal.
So how did the team camp go at LBC? I think you were there. How did those competitions, the inside running game, how did the team look there? Any takeaways?
The one takeaway is just the ability of the 5 offensive linemen to work together, to mentally make their calls, mentally identify defenses. The nice thing about at a team camp, you have a variety of different defenses. You could go from an even front to an odd front within 2 practices.
Right.
Where in the season, you're usually preparing for maybe 1 defense or 2 defenses. But now, at least at team camp, it gets the players thinking. They have to think fast. They get more repetitions, and they see more defenses at team camp. So I was very pleased with the mental and the physical, I would say, growth that we made when we were up there.
Now, did you have an idea of who you thought the starting 5 would be before the camp, or did it just solidify after that, or were there changes made after team camp?
The camp was going to give us the opportunity to evaluate numerous players, and that's an ongoing process that will continue all the way through, because everybody has to be ready to play. You don't know what's going to come down the road.
So Wilson's been playing Mifflin the first game of the year since actually the last time you were on the staff. And
Correct.
This year it's a little bit different. We're going to be playing Central Dauphin the first week. Is there any difference in preparation from your standpoint when you're playing a team like Mifflin versus Central Dauphin? Or is it just pretty much as long as you go through what you want to do on offense, it doesn't really make too much of a difference the front that you're facing?
The one thing that you face when you play a team with this first game, you don't really know what they're going to run, because they've had scrimmages before, and many teams will just use their general defense against their offense, not show you how they're really going to play a certain team. Where this year we have the ability now to see Mifflin against an opponent instead of against a scrimmage game when they're going to be against an opponent where you're in a game situation. So that's going to be an advantage this year.
Now, when you get to play Mifflin in week 2, you're going to be seeing a Mifflin team led by a different head coach, with Coach Vecchio retiring, although just a few years ago, his replacement, Coach Lang, ended up being top dog when Coach Vecchio took a medical leave. Are there expectations that Mifflin will do much different, or are they going to keep chugging along like they have for the last few decades?
I think with the coaching staff over there, very much like the Wilson coaching staff, they've been around and they've been together for many years. I think Coach Lang has at least 23 years of working with Coach Vecchio. All individuals, as they come in, will probably have little tweaks and differences, but I believe that they have a successful program over there. They're going to continue to build off of their success. And you'll probably see some differences, but I would say that they're going to go with what's been working with them for years.
Now, the Wilson non-league schedule over the last few years has been pretty difficult, and the Bulldogs have done pretty well navigating through those first 3 games. Now, with LL realignment this year, they're throwing a curve and doing a 4th non-league schedule, and the Lancaster-Lebanon League decided to do a crossover game with the other league. And it just so happens that the one they'd like to see the Bulldogs play is Mannheim Central. And from the people that I've talked to so far, Central Dauphin, Mifflin, Springford, Mannheim Central actually might be the toughest of that quad, which is an interesting another hurdle to overcome this year, and having to go there. Have you interacted with the Barons much in your coaching career? Have you seen Mannheim Central yet?
We could go back to 2006 and 2007, and for years that matchup between Wilson and Mannheim Central existed. I've also seen them as a coach at different programs, went against them in some of the interactions that were going to take place, and they are a quality club. They're well coached. And the crossover game, Wilson playing them, if you look in the past, Wilson many times played Mannheim Central. So I think both teams have an idea of the caliber of the program. Both of them are. And I think both teams understand each other pretty well. So it's going to be a challenge. They're a great program.
Now, are you a local product? Did you grow up in the area?
I am not from the area.
Okay.
I'm from Schuylkill County.
All right.
I went to Panther Valley High School, which is in the Tamaqua-Hazleton area there. And that's where after I graduated from Kutztown, I got a job in Muhlenberg back in 1994 as a teacher, and I've been there since.
Okay. I wasn't sure how familiar you were with playing out at Old Municipal Stadium,
Right.
The First Energy Stadium. I wasn't sure.
My knowledge is being around individuals that played there. Coach Doms played there for his career during Muhlenberg. Trying to think of some other individuals, like Coach Vecchio played there when he was at Muhlenberg. So I have a little bit of knowledge just for individuals talking about what it was like playing there.
I wasn't sure if you had ever had the opportunity to go as a fan or a young fan. If you,
I did not. No.
So then, getting to coach there will be something interesting that is kind of was announced after last Thanksgiving, that they're bringing that back for the first time in almost 4 decades, close to it. It's kind of a unique thing to do that hasn't been done in a long time. It's been even longer for Wilson. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in that event?
I think anytime you get a chance to play in a stadium like that, and also carry on tradition that was once for the whole entire county with Berks County, because if I could recall right, there was games that were going to be played there on Thursday, there were games that were played Friday, and games played there Saturday. So this gives the opportunity for many people in Berks County to come out to a stadium where some individuals remember going there, like you said, when they were younger, and kind of reliving what it used to be like here at high school football in Berks County in probably 60s, 70s, and probably into the early 80s.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting event that I think people are going to start to get more excited about as the season progresses and we get close to that. But with Wilson playing the last week, they'll get to see a taste of it the weeks leading up to it with the other Berks County schools.
Correct. Yes.
So yeah, I'm very excited for that. I'm very, very looking forward to that event coming up October 5th against Hempfield. Do you keep tabs on or keep track on or have any interest in the PIAA changes or the league, like the administrative level stuff, or you just kind of wait till they decide what they're doing and then you just follow suit?
I think as an assistant coach, you're kind of following suit as much as you can. You're consumed most of the time with just preparation, getting your own players ready. I think your ADs and your head coaches are more going to have on the pulse there. So.
Yeah, so not so much now. We'll move away from the PIAA stuff because I agree. Administrators and Coach Doms, they're going to be the ones that handle that. But I didn't know if that was something that the rest of the coaching staff talked about much or considered. But I figured that would probably be something that, hey, you tell us where to be, what to do, and what rules to follow, and we'll do that.
Yeah, I think, and that's been, the main philosophy just of most staff is you have your organization, they make the decisions, then we go from there. Your ADs and your head coach is probably more involved.
One of the other things that came up with an alignment thing was in the winter we heard the possibility of a Lancaster-Lebanon League merger with the Berks County League, and now that's been tabled and pushed off into the distance. What's your thought about combining that league to introduce the Berks County teams outside of Wilson to a league like the Lancaster-Lebanon League? Is that something that you think would be interesting for the team, beneficial for the team, or just another thing like just tell us where to play and I'll be there?
I think it would be very beneficial for the teams in both leagues. You have teams that even before they were talking of the merger, there were teams from Berks County that have been playing LL teams for years. Mm-hmm. So in the end, you will have the possibility of a league, but it's going to be just like before. They were playing, many of the teams from the LL were playing many of the teams from the Berks County League. So I don't know if there's going to be anything that would be different other than the league. They were still playing each other in the past, and they'll be still playing each other in the future.
Yeah, the LL League is down to probably its lowest Berks representation that it's ever been until they let Berks teams into the LL League. We first saw Muhlenberg years ago leave, then I think Mifflin left next, then Reading followed, and Wilson's all that's left.
Right.
I know from a Wilson-centric point of view, I'd love for it to happen, to see that giant league occur and have the big Berks County schools together playing each other with the big schools from Lancaster-Lebanon League. But it's certainly something that's at least on the table for the future, and we'll keep an eye on. But, well, Coach, I think that's all I have for you right now. Hopefully, maybe I'll get to talk to you after a win sometime this year. We're happy to have you on the staff, and we look forward to another successful season.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks once again to Coach Lorchak for talking with us a few weeks ago about the upcoming season, about his career, and what it's like to take over the helm from someone like Coach Brubaker, who was here for a long time and is very close with the staff and the players. I know they're all sad to see him go, but excited to be playing for someone that coaches the way that Coach Lorchak does and is familiar with the players, the system, the community, the team.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you alluded to it before the interview when you were kind of giving the introduction about, quote unquote, new coach. That happens so often with Wilson, with this football program, where new basically just means returning. Not for everyone. It's not always the case. We've seen that with some of the guys that we've gotten to know involved in the program now. Didn't necessarily come through the Wilson program, but a lot of them have, or at least have some ties to the program prior. It's great to have them back. And yeah, like the enthusiasm around it, there were definitely some questions there, not now as much as like before, because people kind of knew that it was probably going to be Coach Brubaker's last year. So to have, somebody in there who can bring stability or maintain the stability on that offensive line, coaching position is huge.
before we get to the next interview, I think we should go back to this patron opportunity here, because I think you bring up an excellent option for a tier where you donate a certain amount a month, a few bucks. You get to eavesdrop or contribute to our Friday night Wilson football game text, our chat, which is just the two of us right now.
Yeah.
But, we have a donor.
And sometimes a guy who's helping us on the camera.
Yeah.
But he can't contribute. He just sees it. And I know he sees it sometimes because he'll turn around and look at me.
Yeah. That good old Justin Burke, who former player and coaches with us out at West now. Because he's using a phone that's tied into my cell service. He gets to see our conversation. And I think that would be a great opportunity for someone to become a donor, a patron, and say, I want to keep in the loop of Wilson football and I want to see what's happening, and you get to eavesdrop on our conversation. I think that's a worthy level. Of course, there'll be stipulations where there can be no screenshots and no sharing what's said in that group chat, because like we said before, we want to keep doing the show. We don't want anyone to shut us down. And, some of that group, well, it's mostly because you don't want to get the program in trouble with what you're saying about the refs. Let's face it, a lot of that is, how could you make that call in a lot more colorful terminology.
Sometimes it is definitely like me asking you, did you see that? Like, was that right? Or are you sending it to me? Was that right? And sometimes it's really clear that it was or wasn't. And sometimes, we'll just say less clear.
Yeah, less clear with a lot of 4-letter words. Yeah. But I like to ask Justin because he's on the camera. So if I didn't have a good angle, I want to know, was that the right call? Or did we get a break, or did we just lose one because of the ref or, a missed call or whatnot? And that's usually what the conversation is all about. So, but that was just something that was brought up, and I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a play last year. It was interesting. It was an away game. I was on top of the press box, and I remember it happened, and everybody was kind of like, "What just happened there?" Wilson was on defense, but it may have been an interception. It may have been an incomplete pass. It was really difficult to tell watching the replays. It was incredibly difficult to tell live, obviously, but the refs were all huddled up talking about it, and there's news. Everybody on top of the press box is huddling around the news, the TV news camera, because he's replaying it. Like, what do you guys think? What? And everybody's like, I don't know. It was one of those. So it was just interesting because we were all trying to figure out what just happened.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so thanks again to Coach Lorchak. Let's move on to the next set of interviews, which was done together. The defensive coaches, defensive coordinator Ernie Wolber and defensive line coach Paul Covell, both veteran coaches and veterans of the program, having played here in the late 70s and early 80s. And we got to talk about a variety of things, a lot similar to Coach Lorchak, but a little bit different as well, focusing on the defensive side. And because of their ties to the program in a different aspect, being former players and getting to go back to a special event game coming up, I got to ask them a few different questions, something we haven't asked before, and it was a lot of fun. It's a longer interview because of the two of them being there, but I definitely think you should give it time and listen to all of it and get to hear from guys who are on the field Friday night, going to battle via calls and in what Wilson has become known as defensively. That's what the Bulldogs are known about, and Ernie leads that, and Paul Covell is in the trenches, being that defensive line coach. He knows what's going on there, and with having such a young team, it's going to be interesting to see them develop, and both of them have a lot to say about last year and this year. So let's hear what they talked about a few weeks ago. All right, with me now are defensive assistant coaches Ernie Wolber and Paul Covell. How was the off season? The off season, guys. I think there's not much of an off season for a number of years, especially at Wilson. But how has these off season workouts been going through the spring and now in the summer?
I mean, I get a chance to see the kids in zero period, which is our weightlifting period every day in school. So I get to see them. We've seen a lot of body shapes change kids becoming stronger. We see a real good work ethic, good leadership amongst the seniors coming in that have led them pretty hard. So that's pretty good. I know Coach does some line stuff different times during the week, and you can kind of touch on that.
Overall the team chemistry is good. The kids seem to be really in it together. We had coming off a good camp down in Lebanon Valley, and up front we're young, but the kids are looking real good so far.
How was team camp at LVC? Was that a good experience this year? A lot of interesting teams to go up against, a lot of team building?
Yeah, it was. Team building was good. I mean, I think we came together a little bit up there. We always talk about that. The team comes to build up there, and they did. They kind of got together a little bit. The important thing is nobody got hurt. I mean, last year we had an injury to an offensive lineman, defensive lineman. We lost him for a few weeks this season. We came out pretty healthy, which is a good thing. I did get a chance to see probably the best wide receiver I ever saw in high school football. Playing for Southern Columbia. I don't know his name, but he's rated the number one receiver in the country in his age. Everybody in the country's offered him. He's a legit 6'2", 6'3", 215, faster than anybody, a different type of person. And we went against him a few times, and we couldn't do anything against him.
Really?
He is the best wide receiver I've ever seen in high school football, bar none.
Wow.
But it was a good camp, though.
Yeah. Plenty of years' experience to say that. He must be... I wish I knew his name too, because
he's only a junior.
He's only a junior.
He's getting looks big time at Pitt, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he told their coach, their head coach's name is Southern Columbia. But he said he's been offered by 122 schools.
Oh my! So all of them,
basically he said the only top 20 program not to offer him was Notre Dame.
Okay, interesting.
I mean Alabama, stuff like that. So this kid's good.
Yeah,
I forget his name now.
So, they're double A. we're in good shape. They're in double A.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But we did have some good interactions. We played some 11-on-11 and some inside run against some bigger schools. Got to work a lot with our JVs. The JVs get a ton of work in this kind of atmosphere because a lot of the other schools that aren't that big or that strong, we can work our JVs in, and they get a lot of extra work. So. Yeah, it was good. We got a lot of work and we got to look at a lot of our kids.
Now, the only team you saw that you'll actually see this fall was Cedar Crest.
Yes.
And how'd that go against a common foe?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Like, our kids are kind of looking forward to that week already. Not that they're looking ahead.
I already talked to them. So.
Okay, so I'm just passing things on from. I mean, they've built some things down there. I think they went 8-2 or 9-3. I forget what they were last year.
8-3 after the playoffs.
Yeah, they lost in the first round, but they were competitive in Section 2. They did some battles, and that they had back-to-back winning years, and now they're coming back in Section 1, and they're like they want to stamp themselves. Hey, we can play with anybody, and that's fine. I mean, our kids are excited about the opportunity to play him again.
Well, there's a lot of confidence when you have a 4-year starter coming back for his fourth year at quarterback.
Yes.
We were familiar with his brother, who was a solid player for them the last time they were in Section 1. So, yeah, I just heard from the kids that they were excited to play Cedar Crest. So.
They were a pretty spirited bunch when they went against us. And I think our kids kind of want to see what they can do on the field.
They're ready for that game.
Yeah.
So what is this is going to be personal coaching ideology, the coaching staff in general. What was your takeaway from 2017? What was the biggest thing that you remember from that season going forward into 2018?
Frustration. It seems like usually we improve throughout the season. And last year, just from my observation, is we didn't get a lot better last year. Like, we weren't a bad football team, don't get me wrong. Some teams would love to go into semifinals of districts and have a successful year. We felt like we left up a little short last year. I was frustrated in part of I didn't see the usual progression of us getting better each week. We get better, then we take 2 steps back, then a step forward and 2 steps back, and then we get in the playoffs. And I thought our first round playoff game we played was it Central York, Red Lion.
Yeah.
Red Lion. I thought we played our best total game against Red Lion all year. And then I'm all right. We go back to Township, and then with the injuries, frustration due to injuries too. I mean, God bless Joey Fox, but he had to go in and start against safety against Township, and he's only been off ACL surgery recovering for 5 weeks.
And he was definitely a couple steps behind.
Yeah, so he got thrust into it with all the injuries we got. So we never got a chance to develop the way I thought we could last year. So for me, it was frustration. I mean, the kids worked hard. I'm not going to take anything from the kids. They worked very hard. They did what they could do, but we never got cohesiveness because we never were healthy enough to just keep going.
It didn't seem like we gelled.
Yeah.
We tend to gel, even if we take a lick early in the season. If we ever have a bad start against Mifflin or Central Dauphin, some of the powerhouses we open up with, we tend to gel. We tend to get better and learn and come together and grow from that. And it just didn't seem like we did. And I think the leadership factor last year, without pointing fingers at anybody, I just think the senior class, there was a lot of first-year starters as seniors. They worked and worked. Now it's their turn, but they didn't really there weren't a lot of returning guys from junior to senior class, or guys that had been coming up through that were, homegrown kids that were, I just think we were all over the place. As Coach said, frustration, not coming together well. And then top that with some of the key injuries at key spots with Gilmore going down and we just really didn't seem to cohesively meld together. And it showed when we got against good opponents in the playoffs.
I mean, we played our starting secondary in the summer, our on-paper starting secondary didn't play until we played Manhattan Township for the first time in regular season. And that's the only game we had them all year. And somebody got hurt in that game. But that's the only secondary we had, our two corners, two safeties that we wanted to play all year. It's the only game they played in together for, I think they played a quarter and a half, and then we lost somebody to injury.
Yeah, it was unusual, the amount of attrition, especially in the secondary. I know we talked to you after the games, and it was just we didn't know what to say.
I mean, we were playing, no disrespect to the young men, but we were playing as freshmen and sophomore at safety, and that's usually the quarterback of our defense, and we're playing with a freshman and a sophomore. They did the best they could, but they're just not mature enough to be where they need to be. It's
the experience and the mental that you don't have in your first or second year in the varsity squad, especially with playing freshmen.
Absolutely.
You have guys that you're not even really counting on, and you're throwing them out there to say, hey, lead the defense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of personnel, what returning starters or key contributors do you have back on your defense this year?
I'll handle the second wave. Greg Smith played a lot last year. Hatley was dinged up. He had his hand injury, and then he's some family tragedy that happened. So Smitty played a lot. Greg Smith, so he's back. Obviously, Nick Johnson, kids call him Jimmy. He's back. He played a lot as a sophomore, and he kind of was a leader of defense last year. At linebacker, we have Cameron Magalotti, who's a little fire plug and just doesn't back off of anybody. At outside linebacker, and then a secondary, I also got Isaiah Gilmore back. We got Corson back. We got Connor Cook back. We got his Matt Fry back. I think those are the guys that ended up playing a lot. A lot of playing time in secondary with all their injuries.
Yep.
And so we have a lot of kids back in the secondary. So hopefully, we can catch up at the linebacker play because we're replacing one outside linebacker, one inside linebacker. Greg has some experience. He's still not a full-time starter. But up front.
We have a lot of kids with experience at tackle. Not really necessarily any starters, but some experience at tackle. And it's kind of still up in the air. We kind of have 4 tackle types playing across the front 4. We don't have any real true ends that we usually will play at end, but we've got some real experienced kids to put in there. So we look pretty solid. With Ventura played there a little bit last year. Even Jeff Colson as a 9th grader last year got in some varsity play. He looks really good as a sophomore. Nate Keller, we played him a lot last year at different spots at tackle and end. He's back, and he looks really good, and he's got a lot of experience. And Adam Benino is also back. He got some sporadic play, not a lot of varsity play, but we did get him in a little bit on defense last year in situations, and we have him in there as well. Theoretically, they're all kind of tackle types, but Keller and Benino a little more athletic, so we have them at end right now, and we're just really trying to groom a lot of these young kids we have. There's a lot of talent, but not a lot of experience. So we're hoping we can get some of these other kids up to speed where those guys are not playing as much both ways or having to play, out of position. Because I think most of those guys are, what I just mentioned, are really, truly tackles.
So using that type of player, that athleticism, does that change your focus as the coordinator of how we're going about to pressure the quarterback? Are we going to get it from the ends? Do we have to incorporate some blitzes? Do we have to change schemes? What does that go through your head when you have this rotation that's different from previous years?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're actually looking to get some other people, some outside linebacker types, to put their hand on the ground and rush a little bit. Maybe just in situations like in this particular defense, they're going to be defensive end and rush. Because you like those defensive ends to be extremely agile and be able to get up speed and have some speed rush off the edge, things like losing Eddie Ortiz, Chris Price last year. Those guys were great pass rushers. We don't have your prototypical pass rushers. We have guys that are short, stocky, and bulls. I mean, this might be the strongest front four end to end we've ever had. I mean, these guys are animals in a weight room. John Ventura and Venino won the bench press competition at Lebanon Valley. Both did 225 21 times. So we have some strong kids up there. But we're looking at finding some other personnel, some younger guys, and trying to make it work to fit some guys in to get some pass rush off the end. And also blitzes might have to come into play. Nick Johnson's been a blitzer for 2 years. He just times things really well, understands what you have to do. Magalotti was a good blitzer for us last year when we sent him. So we got some packages, nothing really new, just stuff that's been on the shelf we might have to pull off and dust off a little bit for it to match up with our personnel.
Who's someone that the fans may not have heard of last year, wasn't a huge contributor, but you think could have a breakout year this year, or someone that they should definitely know as we get into the season?
I'll pick one, you pick one. How's that? I'm going to pick Connor Cook.
Okay.
No disrespect, the other D-backs, Matt, Troy, Isaiah,
most of those,
Elijah, all those
they
guys,
heard
whatever.
last year. We knew about them.
Yes, but Connor Cook is a perfect representation of Wilson football. He's what it's all about. Connor, and this is no disrespect to Connor, is not the greatest athlete. Connor's not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy. He might be the smartest. He plays a lot like Pat O'Brien. Pat O'Brien was a wrestler, started for 2 years at the corner. And to tell you what, doesn't look like the stereotypical corner, and neither does Connor. They don't look like that guy, wow, that's a corner, but they do things right. Fundamentally, technique, they understand. They don't cut corners. They do what you expect them to do. Connor, we went to camp with Connor. I'm like, all right, we're going to put him on. And I'll tell you what, he competed with everybody. He ended up getting he was covering a guy from Southern Columbia and actually got a knee in the thigh. So we went down with a thigh bruise. He was done for camp. But he competed, didn't back off from the kid. He's just a kid he's number 30. And you watch him, he does his job right. He does everything right. He's a great kid. He's very smart. He does technique wise. He's a technician. He does everything the right way. And he's a kid that, you look at, it's like, oh, that's a kid to pick on him. We'll be fine with that. He's a great player.
He stepped in last year at the end of the year and got some quality reps and really showed us a lot.
Yes.
We really, really liked him. Up front, we have so many guys that are probably going to be going both ways, and we're just going to try to spell guys. But the one kid that just has the opportunity to really break out is Jeffrey Colson. A very, very athletic young man who dabbled in some varsity time last year, who shows us from time to time, we'll just see unbelievable plays out of the kid. And he's got that potential. He's got that ability. And he's athletic as heck, very, very strong, very intelligent, and got a great attitude. I think if he decides, he's going to show a lot of people a lot. I think he's going to come of age, because one reason is mainly because he's played a little bit. He's got the confidence. He's been working with the first group this year, and he's not going to probably see a lot of offense. He's a backup guy on offense, so he can focus mainly on playing defense, and he's tough to block. He does a great job. He reminds me a lot of Rodney Hill. We talked earlier, we were talking about that. He's that Rodney Hill type athleticism, body type, and it just seems like he does it naturally, and it's so I think he's got the potential to be a real key component for us as the year goes on.
And is only a 2B sophomore.
Yes.
He's got a couple of years to keep learning and getting
we're
better.
hoping he gets good really fast, but we got a long way with
We got some time.
Yeah.
So for the past 13 years, dating all the way back to 2005, Wilson played Mifflin in week 1. But with the PIAA and District 3 schedule changing over the years, that we're now forced to an earlier start, which I think most people are probably okay with, because last year we got into a situation where Wilson was playing Mifflin, who had already played a game. And these conversations last year with you and Coach Doms, that was seen as a pretty big negative.
Absolutely.
But now you get to play Central Dauphin week 1. So it's a little bit, you have the history, the rivalry with Mifflin, and Mifflin's turned their program around so much over the last decade plus. That was a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Central Dolphins are the same caliber as that.
Absolutely.
But they're different offenses for you to go up against. What kind of challenges present having to switch from Mifflin to CD? Now, you played them back-to-back, I believe, or first in week 1 and 3 last year. So you already had that preparation in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of issues having them week 1?
The only thing for us, we would actually, when we go into summer practices and we get into it, heat acclimation, and also getting the regular fall practice schedule, we started preparing for Mifflin a little bit each day, like take a 10-minute block or a 15-minute block and slowly start preparing for Mifflin. And we had 2 weeks to do it. So the first week we do a few minutes, and the second week we take minute, we get a little more into it. And by the third week, the kid kind of, before Mifflin week, our kids kind of knew what they were doing. It's just a matter of making it right. Well, now we're going to go in not preparing for Mifflin, except we have a week. Then we kind of have an idea what we want to do, but we're not preparing them for a week. So that's going to make it different. I mean, for Central Dauphin runs an offense, it's a lot of motion, some misdirection stuff, a lot of jet sweep action, things like that. And there's a lot of cerebral stuff going on during that game. So we prepare for them pretty well. And I think they're a little easier to prepare for than Mifflin. Not to say they're a better or worse team, but schematically speaking, they're a little easier to prepare for. So that having that Mifflin at 1 week is going to be hard for us, for coaches and kids, because we're not going to have all that time to slowly introduce and slowly get things going.
Yeah, the preparation part is going to be a little more challenging for sure. However, I really think that benefit of us playing a week before Mifflin and being more on the same plane, that game experience is really hard to get.
Right. So the experience outweighs the
I think that's going to kind of outweigh it. It's got to.
The speed of the game.
The speed of the game is what killed it. Last year, I think we were as good as Mifflin was. We just did not have that week experience, and that killed us.
We were down 21-0 before we got, and then we started coming back, but we gave too much away early. So
we were just not ready. And I think the kids will be a little bit more ready against Mifflin. However, mentally, putting in the schemes and things we want to do, it's going to be a nice balance. We're going to have to try to figure out. This will be the first year of doing this, so it'll be interesting. But I think I like the fact that we're going to be on the same playing field as far as a game experience as Mifflin and also a Springford, because that's also been the situation with them as well.
Yeah, interesting 3 offenses you get to go up against those first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That can't make things easy.
No, I mean, drastically different. There's not one even similar.
Not even close.
No.
So sticking with Central Dauphin, though, this is Wilson's 10th meeting with the Rams. They've been historically tough on Wilson. There are a lot of teams, you look over the history of Wilson football, and Wilson has a distinct advantage over them, over some of them I'm sure you played a lot more because this is only the 10th one with the Rams. But what is it about Central Dauphin that makes them so tough?
They're always hard-nosed, disciplined kids. They're extremely well coached. Yeah, they don't make mistakes. They don't do a lot. Like they're not difficult to understand offensively or defensively, but they do it very well.
They just execute.
They do what they do, and you know what? Almost the John Gursky days of they're going to run a jet sweep and off tackle and a counter, and they're going to run it till you stop it. And you know what? I mean, we played them where they ran the same play 6 plays in a row, because you know what? Their old philosophy: stop us. And if you stop it, then they'll run a play to counter that play that we stopped them with. So they're very well coached. They're well prepared. They're very physical kids. They're tough kids. They play in them, playing in the mid-pen, which is, one of the best leagues around. They go war with with Cumberland Valley, with Harrisburg, with CD East, State College. I mean, all these teams week in and week out, they go against tough opponents. So they got to be battle ready for that. They've been tough because, like I said, they're well coached, and they like to, like last year they had a really good tight end that played against us, number 10, I forget, but he killed us. He had probably had 200 yards receiving against us. We just couldn't handle him. But he didn't play the week before, so we didn't really prepare for him. So we're going to come out and hopefully execute the game plan well, but they're just, look at the games. They've all been very competitive games. Neither team has killed each other or blown each other out. I mean, they've been tight defensive games, and because they play great defense. So it's just, you can never really take advantage of that. I mean, and it's always tight games, nip and tuck, and we'll go from there. So we're going to battle test it definitely from that one.
Yeah, I think their schedule really helps them. I think, and it's not just like in any given year. The fact that they go to war against those teams in the mid-pen year after year after year, I think their mentality is, we've got to be at the top of our game. We've got to prepare, big time, because we can't take 1 week off. And I think that is their program's philosophy, and that's where that's the mentality that they bring to the table. And as Coach said, they are physical, they are well coached, they come ready to play, whether they're a strong team or a weaker team. Like last year, I don't think did they get past the first round of the playoffs.
They lost to Manhattan Central Manhattan Township first round.
They weren't really one of their better teams they had last year, but they went toe to toe with us, and ended up nudging us out, and we really thought we had a little bit better team, but they're good. They're very well coached. It's a good squad to go against early in the year.
So week 2 now will be Mifflin, Labor Day weekend. Little bit of a change of the guard, but are you expecting it to mostly be the same? Because we saw, with Coach Vecchio retiring, but Coach Lang took over for him, and he was the head guy just a few years ago. Is this going to be more the same for Mifflin, or do you think there's going to be some new wrinkles?
When Coach Lang took over when Mick was ill a couple of years ago, Coach Vecchia was still very much involved, and I don't know, now that Coach Lang's, it's his game, I think we'll see a lot of similarities, but I think he changed a little bit. I don't know, not that there's anything wrong with what they do it very successfully, but sometimes you get a different personality in there and you like to do a couple things a little differently. And now Coach Vecchia, I'm sure he's still helping out, and his sons are there. I assume they make subtle changes, but I don't think it's been a wholesale change.
Okay.
I really don't.
And last year, I mean, they threw the ball a lot more.
Yep.
I think
very talented quarterback.
Traditionally, they're just that run, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. They opened it up a little last year. I would expect to see a little bit more of that as well. I know they've got a young quarterback coming up through that's supposed to be pretty good. So I would expect to see a little bit more in the air like we did last year.
Central Dauphin, Mifflin, Springford. It's the same non-league schedules last year, maybe mixed up a little bit, but then the Lancaster-Lebanon League decided to throw a curve in with some realignment this year. You lose a team in the league schedule, but they kind of dictate, hey, you're going to have to play Manheim Central in week 4. Congratulations! This is your reward. But I'm sure they're thinking the same thing.
Absolutely.
This crossover game, new for 2018. Wilson hasn't played them since 2011. Mike Williams was still head coach the last time Wilson got to play Manheim Central, but he handed it off to Dave Hahn in 2015, and they haven't really missed a beat. They're the same squad. They went 13-1 last year, losing in the state semis, and they've got a handful of guys back on offense, and I'm sure you've been, thinking in the back of your mind that those are guys that we're going to have to watch. Evan Simon, big, he's going to be just kind of like that receiver you mentioned getting all those offers. He's already well on his way, and he's only a junior.
Yes. They're
running back-to-back, over 1,400 yards rushing last year, and 3 interior offensive linemen.
And their quarterback.
Yeah, that's right. Simon, Simon Flick and the offensive lineman. How difficult is it to prepare for the Barons, mostly because of the time that's passed since you had last played them, and also the coaching staff changes? When you lose a team but bring them back, what do you do? Do you go back into the archives, or do you kind of start from scratch?
Well, you look a little bit. I mean, but honestly, it's been so long since we played them. I mean, we might do a little bit of things we did back then, but they've changed a little bit offensively, not a lot. They've changed a little bit. But the bottom line is, again, even though they made that change, Coach Williams is still on the staff. Coach Hahn's not a head coach in charge, but Coach Williams is still on the staff. I think the staff's mostly intact. When I left, I think they lost defense coordinator. That's it, Coach Brubaker. But so it's the same staff intact, and those guys know what they're doing. And I mean, everybody always says when we played each other, it was a great rivalry. It really was. I mean, Section 1, Section 2. I don't care if they're smaller than us; they're the same type program. But we go at it, and they're good, hard-nosed kids. It's not. Are we excited? Yes. Are we overly thrilled playing 4 games like that, bang all together, and then league starts? I think we have the potential this year to have a nice deep team late in the year, but early in the year we're going to struggle a little bit with depth because we got a lot of young guys as subs. So playing a team like that, and as experience they have going to states, going to semifinals, I mean, they have a lot of wear and tear come back, and I don't know who their non-league. They're 3 games. I know they play usually Hempfield. Not Hempfield, Warwick.
They're playing both of them.
They play.
I think so.
So they're playing. I mean, they play a schedule like we're going to play. I mean, they're going to be tough. I mean, and going down there. I mean, going down to, not Nashville, I'm sorry, going down to Manheim is not a great place. Their crowds are great. They have a great following. It's going to be interesting. Am I excited? Yes, but I wouldn't mind seeing York Votech on the schedule instead of Manheim Central.
Rich tradition, and let's face it, they got some big guns back. We got a lot of growing up to do in those first 3 weeks. We got to get a lot of the young kids up to speed, and we got to be ready to go. They're going to bring it. I mentioned to you earlier how we played their JVs last year in a makeup game because we both had an open week, and they were tough, very, very tough. So we're going to expect a really good football team.
Yeah, it's unique non-league scheduling, both by choice and dictated to you when you have what has become a rivalry with Central Dauphin just because of the story programs.
Yes.
Mifflin, I don't really have to say anything about that. Springford because of the coaching familiarity. And now Manheim Central, kind of similar to Central Dauphin, the story programs. The communities embrace the teams in all 3 locations.
Absolutely.
Is that something that has been brought up about changing, or is that something you like? Like, you don't like it because you want to be like, this is a game that we should be okay with? Or is it better to be, like you mentioned, the Central Dolphin program, battle tested? These first 4 games, they'll get you ready, but are you in a position then to continue the season later?
There's pros and cons. I mean, I'm excited to play a non-league schedule like that to prepare us for league play and possibly, postseason play. But you do worry a little about, going against, let's face it, those are 4 good programs. Those are 4 teams that have been district playoffs, so 4 teams that have competed at a state level. And and that's the difficult part. I'd like to have one little easier game in there. I wouldn't mind it, but it all comes down to attrition and health. If we come through those 4 games healthy, and if we can get through those games successfully, we might have a really nice football team. But we got to we got to be healthy. And we got to learn in those games. We're going to make mistakes. Like you said, you're talking about, Central Dolphin run a power run game out of a lot of motions, but then you're going to a veer type team, veer option wing T. And then you're going to a spread very similar to us. And then you go to Central, who runs a spread, but a little variation off that spread. So it's going to be we should be ready for every offense in regular season once it's done.
There won't be anything left.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. You'll have done it the first 4 weeks.
Exactly.
If you haven't seen the first 4 weeks, you're not seeing it.
We shouldn't see it. Exactly.
So the next week you get the home league opener, Penn Manor, get the Manheim Central flavor with John Brubaker coming to town. But then a week after that, you're back to Manheim to play Township, which is the 3rd trip there in less than a year. So was there any kind of reaction from you coaches as the scheduling revelation when they came out that you found out, we get to go to Township again? You can't avoid the playoff one. Yes. That's dictated. But last year, regular season at Township. This year, regular season at Township. Yeah. Is there a focal on that, or just kind of like, it's just a little...
You got to play,
it's what it is.
You play the game. It's a league game. Balances out in the end.
Yeah, because we picked up Cedar Crest, who's here.
You played them here the last time.
Yes, but Cedar Crest took whoever's place they took, and I guess they took Lebanon's place. Conestoga Valley. Yeah. And we would have had Conestoga Valley. I guess we're due to play here this year. Mm-hmm. So it's the way it panned out. As coaches, you got to play on the road. We know that. But going to Township, I think it's going, to get the kids back up there to play, the sooner the better. We just play where we got to play and just go from there.
Yeah, I only asked because I had a lot of people asking me about how that worked and people floating conspiracy theories. And I was like, it's a 2-year cycle. It just is. The next time it happens, we could play them home in 2019 and then home again in 2020. Exactly. But I just didn't know if you look at it, you roll your eyes and say, buckle up, here we go.
I know years ago, like when actually my senior year, my junior and senior, maybe my sophomore, I forget, sophomore or junior, but we played McCaskey home 2 years in a row. Because the same thing, they redid the schedule, like Sir Catholic dropped down, somebody came, I forget who it was. But so we've been through the same thing again, but it's just the way the scheduling goes. Everyone's 5 home games, 5 away, and that's just the way it worked out.
Well, I'm sure Penn Manor is saying, we got to go to Gursky again, because they were just here last year.
Yes.
It works itself out, but I had to ask it because I've had so many people asking me, what's going on with the schedule?
And it's just losing. I would rather have 8 teams in Section 1. We're down to 7 now, which I'm not happy about. I wish there was more. I wish we would have had 9 or 10. What we're talking about in the future, that didn't transpire either. But no, it's what it is, and we got to have our games, and we'll just play wherever we have this 100 yards by 52 and a third, so or 53 and a third. So let's just go.
So what are your expectations from the Township team this year after they seemed to have a once-in-a-generation team last year? Like, they were incredibly good, successful, unlike anything they've had. What do you expect from them this year? I know graduation hit them pretty good, but they weren't all seniors last year.
No, they got a great coaching staff. The kids work hard, and Mark Evans done a fantastic job there. Sands is up there, who teaches here. He's your DC. They're going to be battle tested. They're a good coaching staff, and they won enough games by enough points where a lot of kids got time last year. So I'm sure they played a lot of kids. Our JV team had a field day against. They beat us, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a blowout at first, and the JVs battled back and made it a fairly close game. I think we lost by like a score or 2, but it was a high scoring game, and they're a very athletic group. It seems these last few years that their weight program is starting to show signs of, development. Whereas that was one of their things. They've had good athletes in the past, but they didn't seem to have the strength and the weight room and the work ethic in the weight room. I think Evans has changed that around, and the culture there is changing. And they've got the athletes, they're stronger, and they're just rebuilding just like we do. And they just rebuild. And I think they've got a good group of kids coming up through. It should be a very good game.
So the week after you play at Township, you have a home game, but it's not here at Gursky. It's going to be in the city of Reading at First Energy Stadium. You a lot of people know it still as Municipal Stadium.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, if I can do my research correctly, you both got to play there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. That used to be a fun place to play.
Yeah.
Now, how many times did you guys get to play there?
Muhlenberg was their home field.
Yes, I played there once.
Yeah.
Muhlenberg was their home field. I played there against them once, and I'm trying to think, did anybody else? Reading played at, was it George Field?
No, Reading was playing at
Well, it didn't matter because we didn't play
Yeah.
them in high school. JVs, we played them. I'm trying to think. Well,
Yeah,
and Mifflin was over.
We didn't play Reading
Mifflin was
around
over
either,
at
so,
Albright, right?
Yeah, Mifflin was at Albright.
And so, yeah, I guess I played there once because back then it was usually the league stadium was like home away, home away.
Mm-hmm.
So 10th grade was home. We played there as a junior. I played over there, I think. It was a senior. Senior year we didn't play them.
Yeah.
Because they had a
They
strike.
were on strike.
So we played. I remember playing there at least once.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun because
The
part of
dirt.
the field,
The dirt
Yeah.
part of the
transition,
field,
right?
the infield is part of the field. And if it's muddy and sloppy, which it was that year, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
And we played when we played. I was on this ball's a year older than I am, and we played down to third base line
Mm-hmm. Yep, they are doing
and
it
the
all on first
infield,
base.
and we're doing down to first base, and there's going to be sod where the infield is.
Yep.
Because they're redoing this field. So walking out, it was myself, Coach Doms, and Coach Palm had went out, and they walked us through just game scenarios. You know what I mean, as far as logistics, and brought back a lot of memories. Like Coach Doms played there; that was his home field.
Yeah, we played a lot of games there.
So being out there, we're down Coach Palm's, you spring, chicken over there. He didn't play there, but Coach Doms and I walk around. Oh my God, remember this, and these stands weren't here. But it's kind of, and our kids and Nick Johnson and Isaiah Gilmore said two really neat things. They're like, I think McCaskey's the only team with turf with grass now in our league.
Yeah.
But it's really not great grass. The field's not, it's okay. But they were excited to play on a real grass field, like a college turf would be, getting grass stains, kind of neat. So it's going to be, the kids actually are really excited about
they'll
it.
have a lot of fun, and they're looking forward to it.
And that's what we looked at that, but like, this is like almost like a bowl game type situation. So it's like them going to a place like this is really neat for them.
Yeah, that's
So it's
the
exciting.
atmosphere surrounding. I know there's logistical issues, and I know Coach Doms has reservations about it
With weather,
the
yes.
weather, especially that you'll be the last game
Yeah.
scheduled right now.
Yeah.
It's happening October 5th, week 7. You're
Mhm.
hosting Hempfield. And I was pretty sure you both had played there because I had the last time the Bulldogs played there would have been September 14th, 1979. So you
my
may have
junior
been the
year.
last
That was my
one to
sophomore
play.
year.
That was
Yeah.
my junior year.
Last team
Yep.
to play there, and now you'll get to coach
That's
there
pretty cool.
nearly 40 years later.
Yes.
So
You're making us old.
I'm not trying to
Nearly
throw anything
40
out.
years.
Throwing us under the bus here.
Well, you're talking about the kids, being excited to play on grass. Well, I only played on grass.
Yeah, it's
You know,
true.
so like thinking of the kids who haven't
We
played
used,
on
we
much
used to get
grass.
excited
that's-
to play on turf.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now it's the other way. It's-
Exactly.
It's amazing how things change over those generations. But you guys kind of talked about it already. That the kids maybe are a little bit more excited, but does it bring up any other preparation issues besides the possibility of weather and the turf? The short little bus ride, having to do dinners, the
And the
equipment.
pregame schedule has got to be adjusted slightly.
It's kind of like more like a road game.
Yeah, a little bit.
And what we're talking about doing is there was supposed to be a game there Thursday before us,
Mhm.
but I don't think that's off the schedule
I think
now.
that's postponed.
So what we're talking about is Coach Downs. I talked about this. We're talking about actually doing a pregame practice in there
Walkthrough,
to at least get on the field. Not that you learn the field, but just get comfortable instead of running out there the first time being on this field and playing a game, looking around and wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So try to do our pregame practice, which is usually only an hour and a half practice, just a walkthrough type stuff, just make things perfect. And so we want to get out there. That's kind of the only change really we'd have with that. We'll probably get dressed here, go out there, finish up taping, probably shower back here as well. So it should be a fun trip.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. I actually heard about it a long time ago, and I asked Coach Downs about it off the record last year when I did these interviews, and he said that the announcement would be coming, and it came right after Thanksgiving this past year. And
but they're going to have the pool open in right field, and that's going to be actually an end zone. So it's going to look. It's going to be neat things to fans. The way when our stadiums change, you're not going to be as close there. You're going to be real close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to hear things. They're going to see things. That they're not familiar with because they're so far away from us here at home or at other fields. They're so far away. But now, I mean, they're going to be right there. I mean, our sideline is basically the first baseline. So you see how close that is. And then the team's behind them. So it's going to be tight quarters.
And fans are intermingled, and because of the reserve seats, there's 3 for Hempfield, 3 for Wilson, and then there's general admission wherever it's
Exactly.
3 for all.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting. I'm very excited for it, and I know the kids were as well. But I figured you guys, especially because you played there, and I know Coach Doms has played there, so a lot of memories and new ones to be made as well. Last couple of questions, kind of more administrative, but opinions from you guys about kind of the PIAA stuff that's been going on. That's been the number one thing that I was asked to ask you and Coach Doms. What's your opinions on, first up, maybe the one that's most positive is the state playoff brackets have changed. You no longer are District 3 having to go out west to play whoever wins District 7 or whatever that other grouping is. Mm-hmm. Now you get to stay here and play the suburban Philly schools, which you're familiar with, having playing Springford this year. And in the past, we played the Downingtown schools. Yeah. I think you had a 7-on-7 versus Coatesville. Mm-hmm. So, even though it's not going to be Wilson every year, but what was your reaction when you saw that the PIAA was switching things up and sending Allentown and Philly out west and bringing District 3 back here?
Not to go to Mansion Park. That's my first thought.
Not having to make that trip to Altoona.
That's not a fun trip.
I don't think the teams are going to be any easier. No. I mean, suburban Philly is tough. That's football. They win states almost every year. So I don't think we're going to be in for an easy street. But I think just the logistics and the traveling and not knowing the opponents well. Like every year when we play out there, it's grabbing and scrounging to try to get any film and find out anything we can about these teams, because we don't play them week in and week out, or year in and year out, and a lot of our opponents don't either, because there's in the West. So I think that part's going to be a little bit more user friendly for us, if you want to put it that way, as far as getting scouting and looking at the teams and knowing the teams and knowing what they do and following them week to week, and knowing what we're going to be up against possibly is going to be better, and not having to travel will be a lot better. But
that was the takeaway from the kids, too, of the travel. Like, they didn't want to have to
go. I mean, honestly, what we do, we usually go to Altoona, we take basically the varsity guys, if you will, the starters and key backups. We take on a bus load, take them out, go out there and pregame out there, and then spend a night. And then the next day would be, the JVs or the guys who not key players in the game in the game would come the next day. Or now we're not going to split up like that. It's nice. We practice at home. We get on a bus and drive an hour and a half, and we're ready to go, instead of driving 3.5, 4 hours out to Altoona. So that's nice. I mean, it's kind of, and this is just my personal opinion, it's kind of the way that PIAA is just saying, okay, now we don't have to go through a private school. District 3 doesn't have to go through a private school. Mm-hmm. And now District 1 doesn't go through a private school or a non-boundary, because there's no 6A non-boundary schools in District 3 or District 1. So the champions of those will definitely be public. So public school will be represented in the state final.
Correct.
Now, we do have a bye week, which I'm not a big fan of.
Right.
Health-wise, it is, but our district final, we won't play the following week. Right. That's a District 1's final, the championship. So we'll have a week off. We can go watch that game and do those things. But having a week off in the playoffs, I'm not a big proponent of that, because that week you don't play, what do you focus on? Game prep. How do you game prep? You're going to play. So it's kind of hard as a coach.
And at that part of the season, that's all you're really doing.
Yes.
You're not teaching fundamentals. You're not getting the kids in shape. You're not, you don't want to pound them. So it's like, what can we do?
And you don't want to add things you're not going to do. Right. You don't want to say it's two completely opposite teams. Well, we're not going to practice. We'll do one day this, one day that. I can't do that.
Too confusing.
So it's hard, but I mean, I'm glad that the travel's out of the way. And District 1 is very good football. I mean, let's face it, remember years ago, CB West won 4 straight. Downingtown's won it
5 or 6 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good football down there, so it's not going to be an easier process for us, but it's less travel is going to help.
Yeah. Then the other ones that are more recent, especially with the summit just this past Tuesday, people talking about the transfer rules, the possibility of them wanting to force the PIAA into a boundary, non-boundary situation. What's your guys' take on those type of things that have come up over the last few years and just continue to get louder?
It's hard. I mean, playing a school that doesn't have the limitations we have. I mean, people accuse us every year of bringing new kids in or recruiting or transfers or whatever. Everybody gets them. But the difference is they have to live in our school district. And our school district is very disciplined, very very strong rules. You must live in a district to play here.
Yeah, Wilson does not accept tuition students.
And what you have no, and what you got
to establish residency is very, very.
Oh, you need bills, you need utilities, you need everything.
My daughter is starting kindergarten this fall. I've lived in the Wilson district my entire life, and the amount that hoops that we had to jump through just to get her registered for kindergarten was crazy.
Absolutely, and so we're really. I mean, Wilson's clearly shows to be strong, and that's fine. That's what we choose to do. But if we could pull 2 players from every school in the county, 2 of their top 10 players, imagine adding 2 players from every school. You're talking about 13, 14 schools playing in the county. You're talking about adding 28 more kids to a successful program now, and now you have that. You know, so the only Catholic school in our area we talk about is Burst Catholic, obviously, was 2. Now it's merged into 1. And they have a pick, and it's hard to compete against somebody that has those levels. You know, not that they go out and openly recruit and say, oh my God, I want that kid, I want that kid, I want that kid. But let's face it, they've been there successful. They're getting kids in colleges, so more kids look at that. And maybe if they're younger and they think, I can play there as a sophomore, we're going to be able to play at Wilson, and they go over there. And it's, I mean, it is an advantage for parochial or non-boundary schools. I think it's a huge advantage. That's just my personal opinion.
Especially when you get closer to the big cities. They can draw from other states. You know, you start bringing kids in from other states.
Jersey, and just Ohio.
I mean, St. Joe's is represented by 4 states, and it's just
it's not a fair playing field. Regardless of how you feel about it, and whether you think it's okay to keep doing it, it makes us better. We have to raise our game up. You know, there's lots of different ways to look at it, but the bottom line is it's not the equal playing field for parochial and non-boundary schools versus us. And that's just the way it is. Good, bad, or whatever. You know, I personally, you know, every time I see us get to that level of where we're competing, you know, at the, you know, state semis, and I look at some of these schools and I just think, my gosh, you know, if we just had 1 or 2 guys like that, you know, we could really go toe to toe with these guys. But it's very difficult when you have teams that are made up of kids from all over the place. And how many Division I scholarships did the
Central Catholic
have?
19
every
out
single
of 22
every
starters.
single lineman they had was going D1. You know, 5 line, and we had a great team. Those kids, we battled them and played them really tough. But they just, you know, you can't compete. They were just better. So I think that needs to be addressed. They need to do something, whether gradually or abruptly. But I think they should. Personally, after being in it, seeing it. And, you know, it just makes sense.
No, and the hard part, and, you know, adding to that is, like, you talk about tuition. Maybe make it a state mandate. You're allowed to have tuition students. Now maybe we're playing an equal playing field. You know, like I know for a fact there's 2 kids at Burst Catholic probably would have come here if we accept tuition students.
Yep.
And we hear from people all the time, well, we have a STEM. We're the only school in the county with STEM. So if you want to get in that program, you know, you go to Mayheim Central, they're the only school with ag program. So kids go there for ag program. So if you would come here for STEM to pay tuition to come here, there's kids that would do that for academic and athletic reasons. But we don't take tuition students. Like Kutztown takes tuition students, just locally schools take them. So, but then you got the old answer, okay, now you're going to get recruiting because you're going to get tuition kids, and now it's going to end up with a free-for-all in the Wild West, which is down in Harrisburg, kind of that situation right now. Kids are transferring left and right to schools out there. So, I mean, if you're going to do it, I wish when they would have gone to 6 divisions, they would have went 4 non-boundary. I'm sorry, 4 non-boundary, and I don't know, 2 non-boundary, 4 boundary.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the only way to get it out.
It's confusing. We should
Yes,
doing
but
the
6. Yeah, but just 6 levels. We still have 6 levels.
Yep.
And leave them in league play. Leave them play regular seasons, and you know they'll still keep rivalries. You know,
it seems to be the most common sense proposal, and this actually, I believe, Coach Downs might have said that to me on one of these interviews. Maybe the first year we did it, first or second year that we did it, that was a thing. Before, there weren't even 6 classifications, yes. And I think it was the talk of coming to 6 classifications, yeah. And the common sense was right away make it 4 boundary, 2 non-boundary.
Yes.
And like you said, regular season stay the same, schedules stay the same. It's just when you get to the playoffs,
just
you're
make that break
with the schools that
are
the
big and the small,
abiding by the same rules.
Exactly, and you know, might be for better football. Who knows? You know, and then, you know, you get the whole debate. Oh, this team could be that team. That could be that team. And then but you know what? There's no perfect world.
Yeah, it's hard for Pennsylvanians, I think, because they see it happening, I believe, at least in Ohio, definitely in New Jersey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Harold Slemmer, and Gerald Slemmer's brother, he's actually works national now, and he's saying more states have it than don't, that they split them up. But I don't, you know, it's what it is.
Well, last topic that isn't more of an it is what it is for now, and we've talked to you about this before, but in the winter, news broke that there's a potential or talkings about an LL Burks merger. We know that right now is tabled. You know, they're going to talk about maybe in the future, but for now, you know, there's a little bit of smoke, but not much fire. What's your guys' opinion on that if it would ever happen down the road? Is that something that you're in favor for from a Wilson standpoint? Do you think it's good for the program? You know, what's your take on it? When it broke, what was your first thought?
When they put out the first proposal where there was going to be 10 teams in Section 1, you play one non-league game, you play 9 league games with Exeter, Mifflin, and Reading in Section 1 and LL. I was all for it. I thought it was a great thing. Pick one non-league game up, and then you just play your 9, and it's a good schedule. And plus, it's good for Berks County football. It's good for seeing Reading every year, for seeing Exeter every year, for seeing, you know, nobody's played Mifflin as it is. So I think that will be good for Berks County football. I was all for it. Being at some of the league meetings, just my perception was that the big schools, the 6As, really liked it. The small schools really liked it because they're adding small schools, then they're adding the Kutztowns, the Schuylkill Valleys, the smaller schools. Yeah. But the 5As were the big issue because Section 2 and LL is tough. Let's face it. I mean, Central's always good. Kickalika's always good. Lampeter Strasburg competes. E-Town's been good off and on. I mean, there's teams that are there. And now you add the new proposals, adding Mifflin to that and Exeter to that, which have both won the league and counties. So now you're adding 2 more teams to already the really difficult division. And that was really difficult for those 5As to kind of like, wow, you just throw more on us.
So that was a different proposal to have more sections?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They were going to have us all 6A, which means from Berks County, the Section 1 would only have Reading. Would be the only addition.
Reading.
Yes, and then Mifflin and Exeter would jump in 2. What they do is have 2 sections to 5A.
Okay.
And then have a 4A and a 2 and a 3A. So I kind of think it would be neat, but talking to people, it's things we don't think about because it's really good for us. But if you're talking about a team, say it's who just joined the LL League? From who? Octorara. Octorara would have to travel to Hamburg, and they were saying that's over a 2-hour ride. So logistically speaking, for that, I didn't even think about those things. Right. For us, it'd be great. We're going to Lancaster. We can play some home games. It's awesome. But for schools that are outlying in the far areas, you know, and Daniel Boone, and you know, and those, it's tough.
If we played like the first proposal, if we were playing Reading and Exeter and you know these schools in the county, the ticket take would be so much better. You know, not that the Lancaster schools don't travel well, the fans and so forth, but we're not going to pack them in like we would if we were playing Reading. Yeah, this place would be standing room only. And it's a good rekindle a good old rivalry. You know, I think it would be awesome if we could play some of the bigger schools in the county on a regular basis. The LL is tough. I mean, they have their ways. They've been stuck in their ways for how many years? It's got to be just the way they want it. And there's some influential people, that are old school in the LL, and it's going to be tough to change. I mean, I'd like to see it happen. I think it'd be great. It'd be great for Berks County for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was when I was notified of it by Justin. He sent me the link. He was like, "Did you see this?" I was like, "Wow." My first thought was, wow, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, were surprised by when I told them that I thought it would be great. And then when I walked through exactly what you just said, they were kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess so. I was like, but I don't know that the LL is going to go for it.
Yeah.
And we're stuck in neutral right now. It's not a complete no, but it's not looking good.
Yeah.
But who knows? Things change. The economics change.
Absolutely.
All the other things, maybe things at the PIAA level will trickle down, and they'll come back to it in a few years. And
absolutely,
there's a potential for it. But I think that's all I have for you guys. Okay. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me again, and just good luck this season. And hopefully, I can talk to you guys after a few wins this fall.
Sounds good, Joey. Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
and thanks. All right. So, again, that was Coach Wolber and Coach Covell talking to us about the 2018 season. A lot of great content there. Excellent from them. I always look forward to talking to Ernie because, he's not going to pull any punches. He's going to let us know what he thinks. He still gets to throw the coach speak in there because, they're not going to throw any bulletin board material out there for anyone. But he always has a lot to say.
It's interesting. He's one of the coaches we've gotten to talk to the most over the years.
Well, he's open and willing.
Right. And a lot of the guys are willing.
They're not as comfortable.
They're open.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not as willing. And it's not really something they're used to.
Well, it's actually because they don't like you.
Well, that could be it. I have that effect on people. But, yeah, so, like, it is, he's comfortable enough that he's going to say it. And we've seen that because over last year, I think we got a couple interviews with coaches who we don't always get to talk to. So it's interesting. But, yeah, so, but Coach Covell is one that we don't always get to talk to on camera. We'll talk to him. I see him a lot. But we, it was good to get them in for an interview. Again, kind of like we did last week. Thanks to these guys for giving us the extra time. They're busy. They got other stuff going on. But they give us time, not just now, but throughout the season. They give us their time. They give us that access, which kind of makes this all possible.
Yeah. I appreciate them sitting down and talking with us. We still will have one more interview in our next episode coming up next week. Yes, episode 5 of the Bulldog Hour's 4th season will be next Sunday, August 19th, and we will do it live. So if you want to join us in the chat on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, Ustream, YouTube Live, all that stuff, we will be doing this one where you can interact with us, ask us questions, and it includes the interview with Coach Dom. So it will be a good one. Again, that's next week, Sunday, August 19th at 8:30 with Coach Dom's interview and a preview of the game against Central Dauphin.
Game previews. Can't believe it's that time already. All right.
So close to meaningful Wilson football. So I think that's about it. Again, everything goes through BulldogHour.com. Make sure you're hitting the website often. There's so much going on there, not just for this season, but for every season in the path as I work my way through season by season with the season recaps, with game capsules and articles from the Reading Eagle and other newspapers, and the videos that I've been converting, the game film. You can see some of that on the website or also purchase that to own via the merchandise store. The game used jerseys are on there, a bunch of other apparel from the team and from the show. So definitely continue to go to BulldogHour.com. Do you have anything to add?
No, except, like to just kind of echo what you said. If you haven't checked out the website, I think you'll be blown away by all the stuff that's there. So click your way over there and check that out. And like and share everything that you see.
It sounds good.
Pretty simple.
All right, so for the entire Wilson football program, I'm Joe Mays. He's Justin Raffoff. And remember,
go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.